So the first London-based university, which is coming in at number 7, is going to shock a lot of you, but I will be explaining my reasoning, and that is King's College, London. So this isn't based purely on the official rankings, which consider items such as research funding, number of paper citations, or lecturers who won Nobel Prizes, which frankly don't impact a student's experience, but rather will be based on weighing up the inputs required to get in and graduate versus the career opportunities post-graduations. So the metrics I'm going to be weighing up and comparing for these 7 universities will be ones such as entry requirements, tuition fees, workload expectations, and in the outputs, you've got ideal job opportunities, the alumni network, as well as the value of a degree from that university. And importantly, this is based on working with dozens of graduates from each of these London universities and others that didn't make the list to make sure it takes into account real life results. So King's at number 7, I admit is surprising, but let me give you a background. There's no doubt that King's College London is world renowned. People know the brand and was a founding member of the University of London in 1829. But with the first recorded teaching back in 1561, it's the oldest university in London and third oldest in the UK. However, over the past few years, I feel it's relied on its history a little too much. In terms of innovations or teaching methods, it's slacked quite a bit compared to other universities, and I don't see state-of-the-art, at least modern facilities making the experience pretty grim for students. It's all too easy to impress prospective students by talking about the famous alumni who studied there, most of which were over 50 years ago. But honestly, who cares? How is someone who attended the uni 50 years ago going to show me that you're a good university right now? Now, I normally see King's College talked alongside Imperial, UCL, LSE and Oxbridge in the Golden Triangle, but you're really pushing it if you're wanting to include KCL in that classification. I feel it's only ever mentioned as part of the Golden Triangle just because of its history, and it's a bit awkward now to remove it. There's also a big discrepancy between the international reputation and the UK reputation when it comes to King's College. The international reputation is still very, very strong. It opens a lot of doors for you, but the UK one, in my opinion, has slightly diminished now. Employers are starting to realize it's not what it once was. So weighing all the inputs, KCL isn't going to reduce its entry requirements, nor is it going to reduce its tuition fees to make up for the fall in standards. But compared to the outputs, I can't see how I would rank this university any higher on this list. Now, King's College forte could be in a specialist area such as war studies or law, where they're both very strong at the university. But even from a specialist angle, it didn't hold enough weight for me, especially when I considered it to the next university, which is SOAS. So I get invited to a lot of universities across the UK, and I've been to several events at SOAS. So I'm quite familiar with the setup they have, as well as the facilities, which I think is a little step up from KCL. Now, SOAS surprisingly has high entry requirements. The majority of courses are asking for A's in your A level, but with it not really being a top 20 UK university, I do think they need to relax those entry requirements. But what brought SOAS up to 6th in this ranking were the outputs it has, specifically what it specializes in, which is developmental studies. I feel it's unmatched in the UK, as well as held in high regards at a global level. For those attending the university because they want a future career at a think tank, consultancy firm, or an intergovernmental organization, you will definitely get the right education here and the network after you graduate. There's a lot riding on SOAS because if your name suggests you're the School of Oriental and African Studies and all your courses have a developmental bias, then you definitely need to deliver on those outputs, and I feel SOAS does that really well. Now, before adding the University of Arts London into the rankings, I thought quite a bit about this one, because it'd be quite unfair if I included universities that have a deep specialization. As much as the modules at SOAS focus a lot on developmental studies, it's still an all-rounder university offering a wide choice of courses. Whereas the universities such as UAL, London Business School or Institute of Education, whilst amazing institutions, are really niche and you only know about them if you know about the industry. But I had to add the University of Arts here because unlike the other two universities, LBS and IOE, it's not a postgraduate focused university. In other words, the university caters both to undergrads as well as postgrad students. Now, you'll rarely see UAL placed highly in generic rankings because the subjects it offers doesn't attract much funding, doesn't have much research there, and it also has quite a diverse entry requirements with a lot of people entering the university via their design portfolio as opposed to having exams. all of these play a big part in university rankings and is also another reason why you often see science-based universities placed highly in the typical rankings. But for what University of Arts offers, and I'm talking about on the global level, it's the cream of the crop. As well as it being Europe's largest art-focused institution, in world rankings, it's comfortably number 1 or sometimes number 2 when it comes to art courses. All of this not only gives you an excellent education, but importantly, it's making sure that you're getting the relevant education to succeed in your future career. One thing which is odd though is when I was considering it's an art and design focused university, I did think the university buildings might look a little more different or artistic, but whatever. If you want to see how high the inputs are, graduates of UAL are frequently shortlisted for national and global awards ranging from the Turner Prize to the Oscars, and that's as high as you can get in terms of achieving what you want in your career. Now, a lot of people, when they see Queen Mary placed here in the rankings, would probably be saying KCL should be ranked higher, since this is often reflective in the official rankings. Where QM hovers generally around 40th, KCL is usually seen amongst the top 20 UK universities. But when I look at who else is around 40th, Queen Mary's punches above its weight, and in all honesty, I'm always surprised it's not a solid top 30 UK university. For the inputs such as living costs, they're going to be extremely cheap compared to other London universities, and graduates are usually represented at top firms. Now, companies are of course hesitant to take on QM graduates in large batches, such as from Oxford, LSE or King's for example, but considering the fees, the living costs, the entry requirements versus the job opportunities, it's a solid top 5 London university. And to be honest, I'm not going to be talking too much about why I think Queen Mary's is ranked here, because I've already made an entire video on that topic and my views on the university, which I'll link above me, so you can go check that out in your spare time. But coming in at number 3 on the best value London university rankings is Imperial College. So this again is a university ranking that'll surprise a lot of people, but with 2 of the 3 universities I've attended being London-based and working in top industries for over a decade, I know a thing or two about the value of your degree, especially when it comes to working in London. First of all, Imperial College, I rated a lot. I've already made a video on the top 10 London universities, and I'm not going to spoil the video for you, but just know I rated Imperial College very highly on that list. So Imperial in the tech world is massive, usually only comes second to MIT when it comes to STEM subjects, but the point to consider here is, what about the balance between the inputs and the outputs of attending this university? From an outputs perspective, well, for the most part, you get jobs very easily. You can often mention the university and it'll open a lot of doors for you, because for employers, Imperial is a great filter for top level candidates. If you got in and succeeded at Imperial, it means you're probably going to be good enough to succeed at the company. But there is one issue, and this isn't something which is talked about a lot. Due to the intensity of life at Imperial College, that well-rounded university life experience is often missing in students, and maybe the students don't really care about it, or you don't really think about it before you attend. But I'm telling you, it is something that's very important to consider. Now, from talking to alumni, I often hear that Imperial isn't the friendliest place, certainly when they compare their experiences to their friends at other universities. Like the students who go Imperial already had the stress of getting the highest possible grades to enter university, but life as an Imperial student doesn't really get any easier. You better get used to having very little social life. And the next point is that studying there is very tough. You better be expecting strict marking, because the university is actually very proud of its difficult exams. Now, some of the feedback I've received from Imperial graduates is that the course material is so much that they expect you to cover what's normally completed in around the whole degree course in only the first 2 years. And whilst the facilities at Imperial are great, the push to bring in more international students, which means higher revenues for the university, results in lecture rooms often too packed and computer rooms always busy. Now look, of course the students who get into Imperial are some of the best in the world, but the standards and accompanying stress is so high at Imperial that it often leads to a lot of burnout amongst them. Now you can say competition is good, and hey, I've worked at top investment banks and big tech firms, so I know all about competition and I'm fine with it. But honestly, that level of competition for an 18 or 19-year-old is actually unhealthy. Always against your peers, making it difficult to see them as friends, and it also makes it hard to ask for help, because you don't want to look like you're the one who's struggling when compared to the rest of the class. And as part of my research for this video, I uncovered a couple of alarming documents which detailed the extent of what I'm talking about. And you should really pause this section of the video to read these reports because they're pretty scary. Again, this is another study incentive university. It's actually common for LSE to give a fail grade to students who don't hit the standard in their second year. And just like Imperial does for science, LSE opens a lot of doors in the finance sector straight away. One big difference though between Imperial is that the students at LSE aren't as isolated. There's a lot more commingling with other university students, especially since you got King's College opposite the road, as well as UCL and SOAS just 25 minutes walk away. It makes cross-collaboration of events a lot more easier compared to, say, Imperial, who sit isolated by themselves in Kensington. Now, going back to Imperial, where one of the issues was about how you don't become a well-rounded student, LSE attempts to resolve this by having its LSE 100 program. So this is a compulsory short module for undergrads, and on it you'll be learning about contemporary issues from climate change to AI. It's not as in-depth as similar programs at other universities, such as King's College's AKC program, but I like the fact that there is an attempt by the university to make sure its students develop a range of skills outside of their immediate degree program. So I don't think anyone is surprised that LSE appears so highly on the list. Of course, it's a global brand in economics. Yes, there are some complaints of lecturers being too busy with their own research to help students, but overall, when comparing all the inputs and outputs, certainly the high salaries LSE grads get is helping here, but LSE comes out on top of Imperial for second place, and that leaves just one more institution on the best value London university rankings, which is, of course, UCL. So UCL is often proud of it being a top 10 university in the world rankings. I personally always question how true this is. In Asia, yes, the brand is super strong. People dream of attending it. But if you go to America, for example, they probably won't even know what UCL stands for. But going back to some of the inputs used in official rankings, I'm never shocked when STEM-focused universities place highly. And placing UCL first on this list isn't just about costs versus, say, Imperial or LSE. UCL is a very expensive university. Comparing the tuition fees, for example, of computer science with Imperial, UCL is actually more expensive. You do have to get top grades to get into UCL, competition is fierce, and the workload is of course going to be challenging. But in all honesty, if you go to UCL, you'll have a less stressful time than Imperial or LSE, enjoy yourself a lot more, and as long as you work on your CV, practice your interview skills, you can probably get any job you want. And it's that input of a less stressful university environment, but still getting amazing postgraduate opportunities that really tips UCL to top this ranking list. Now, university is a massive investment in all sense of the word, from financial to mental, and being able to balance the outputs with inputs, in my opinion, is very important. But hey, some people just like the traditional rankings. If you want to see my video on the top 10 London universities based on the official data and my personal views, I've already made a video on that, which I'll leave next to me. So go check that out, and I'll see you all in the next video.